In this video, I'm gonna be giving you the only titles guide that you will ever need. The first title we got here is the Tail Beast title, and you can get this from the Kitsune Shrine. Next up, we got the Naturic Blade, which you can get by clearing 200 sea events. Next up, we got Abyss Tamer, and for this one, you gotta clear 50 sea events. Then we got the Serpent Slayer, and for this one, you gotta defeat the Leviathan boss, which is pretty difficult to do. Next, we got Terrorbringer, and for this one, you gotta defeat 10 Terror Sharks. Not that hard, but not that simple either. Next up, we got the Do King title, and you get this by defeating the Do King. Next is Do Commander, and you get this one by defeating the Cake Prince. Next up, we got the Devil's Luck, and for this one, you have to obtain a Hallow Essence and God's Chalice by praying. Next up, we got the Shinigami, and for this one, you gotta defeat the Soul Reaper boss once. Next up, we got Death King, and for this one, you gotta collect 200 bones during the Halloween event. Next is Undead Lord, and this is the exact same thing, but you only gotta collect 500 bones. Next up is Skeleton, and for this one, you gotta collect 250 bones. Next up, we got the final hero title, and for this one, you gotta unlock the Rainbow Savior aura color. Next, we got the main character, and for this one, you gotta complete the Citizen's Quest, which is a decent difficulty to do. Next up, we got the Chosen One. For this one, you gotta find the God's Chalice in its chest, which is incredibly difficult to do. Next up, we got the Shadow Sovereign. For this one, you gotta defeat Rip Indra in his true form, debatably one of the hardest things to accomplish in the game. Next up, we got Ration, and for this one, you gotta unlock the Electric Claw fighting style. Next up is Celestial Swordsman. For this one, you gotta unlock Tushida. Then we got Demon Mode, and for this one, you gotta unlock the Yama Sword. Moving on, we got the Real Deal, and for this one, you have to defeat an elite enemy. Next up, we got Raid Boss, and for this one, you gotta get a fruit from the prior raid event, which you can do on the 3rd sea at the Castle on the Sea. Moving on, we got Loco Verde, and for this one, you gotta collect 1000 candies, which you can only do during the Christmas event. Then we got Sugar Rush for 100 candies and Christmas Spirit for 250, just like the bones from before. Next up, we got Pirate King, and this one is probably one of the hardest titles to obtain. You gotta own a crew that's in the top 10 of the leaderboard for 72 hours. Next up, we got the Most Wanted, and for this one, you gotta own a crew that's currently in the top 100 in the leaderboard. Moving on, we got the Lonely Reaper, and for this one, you gotta collect 1000 ectoplasm. Then we got Ruler of the Night and the Ghost, which you can get for 100 ectoplasm and 250 ectoplasm. Moving on, we got Slayer of God, and for this one, you gotta unlock the Graveyard Secret, which gives you a skin for your Dark Blade. Moving on, we got Hakashin, and for this one, you gotta get every single hockey color in the game, including ones you can find at events, and this one is probably one of the most difficult ones on this list. Next up, we got Realm Creator, and for this one, you gotta unlock the Winter Sky hockey color. Next up, we got Bringer of Doom. For this one, you gotta unlock the Pure Red hockey color, True Heart for Snow White, the Enchanter for unlocking any aura color. Then we got the Hurricane, and for this one, you gotta unlock the True Triple Katana, one of the most powerful swords in the game. And you also get Demon Eye for this exact same thing. And for unlocking Superhuman, you get the Killer title as well as Human Weapon. Quite fitting if you ask me, because it's a very overpowered fighting style. Next up, we got Apex Predator, and for this one, you gotta defeat 25 players in the same server, which is extremely difficult to do if you're not a PvP pro. Moving on, we got Cold Blooded, and for this one, you gotta defeat 10 players in the same server. Then we got the Protagonist, and for this one, you gotta defeat 2 or more players at the same time. That means you have to fight them at the same time and kill them at the same time. That is incredibly difficult to do. Moving on, we got Raging Demon, and for this one, you gotta defeat 20 players, each of them obviously taking Bounty or Honor to kill, and all without dying in the same server. Next up, we got Unstoppable Force, and it's the exact same thing, but you only gotta kill 5 players, which is much easier to do. Then we got Luck of the Draw, and for this one, you have to obtain a fruit that's worth more than 1 million from the Blox Fruits gacha, which is kinda difficult to do, but with enough rolls, you can definitely get there. Moving on, we got Risk Taker, and for this one, you just gotta purchase a fruit from the Blox Fruit gacha. Moving on, we got the Stalker, and for this one, you have to defeat a player that's the exact same level as yours. Next, we got the Executioner, and for this one, you have to die to a max level player, which is kinda difficult to do if you're still in the 1st or 2nd sea. Next up, we got the Silent, and for this one, you have to die to a player below level 800. Pretty random title. Then we got the Samurai, and for this one, you have to unlock the Rengoku Sword by defeating the Awakened Ice Admiral in the 2nd sea. Next up, we got Sharkman, and for this one, all you gotta do is unlock Sharkman Karate. Then we got Burning Leg for Dead Step, and we got Dragonborn for Dragon's Breath. Next up, we got the Wicked Captain title, and for this one, you have to obtain the Dark Code by defeating Darkbeard. Next, we got Night Owl, and for this one, you have to buy a fruit that costs more than 1 million from the Blox Fruit dealer. Next up, we got Lavish Living, and for this one, you can just buy any fruit from the Blox Fruit dealer. Next up, we got the Kraken, and for this one, you gotta drop a fruit into the sea. So if you're doing this, I definitely recommend a really terrible fruit. Maybe something like the Rocket or Chop. Moving on, we got Kind Hearted, and for this one, you just have to simply drop a fruit. Not sure why the title is Kind Hearted, because you can pick it back up again and you still get the title. Next up, we got Knight's Edge, and for this one, you gotta defeat the Cursed Captain once. Next, we got Beyond Death, and for this one, you have to defeat the Order boss once. Next, we got the Cursed One, and this is for defeating the Darkbeard boss. We got Heavenly Devil for defeating Dawn Swan. Next, we got the Hidden Power title, and for this one, you have to just eat a physical fruit, which isn't that difficult to do. Next, we got the Troll, and for this one, you have to die with a fruit in your inventory. Next, we got the Forbidden One. For this one, you have to find the Fist of Darkness in a chest, which is incredibly difficult to do. Next we got the Lost Soul, and you have to die to factory poison for this. Next we got the Beast, and for this one you got to defeat 25 whole Sea Beasts. Then we got Beast Hunter, and for this one you just have to defeat 1 Sea Beast. Next we got the Swordsman, and for this one you got to get a sword from the legendary sword dealer, which is kind of pricey, especially if you're broke. Next we got the Collector, and for this one you got to buy something from the legendary sword dealer or the Master of Auras. Next up we got the Rich tile, and for this one you have to get 5 million belly. Next we got unlimited money, and for this one you got to get 20 million plus belly. Then we got the richest in the world, and for this one you have to have 50 million plus belly, and which makes this an incredibly difficult title to obtain. I literally don't even have it. Next we got equal to the heavens, and for this one you got to defeat a Bloxwood staff member, and I don't think a lot of players are capable of this because the admins in this game have some crazy abilities. Next up we got Blessed One. For this one all you got to do is find a fruit. Then we got the Toxic. For this you have to win a fruit from the factory event. Then we got Tide Warrior. For this you just have to drown yourself. Next we got the Champion, and for this one you have to complete Bartillo's mission. Next we have the Flash, and for this one you got to complete a raid in less than 3 minutes 30 seconds, which is incredibly difficult to do. Then we got the Supersonic. For this one you got to complete a raid in 5 minutes. Next is Last Hope, and for this one you have to be the last standing player in a raid, which you can obviously get if you're doing the raid solo, and I do a lot of solo raids, so this one's pretty easy for me. Next up we got the Conqueror. For this one all you have to do is simply complete a raid. Then we got Broken Heart. For this one you got to run out of time in a raid. Next up we got Fist of Death, and for this one you have to reach max mastery on any fighting style. Then we got God's Blade, which you have to reach max mastery on a sword. Then we got King Sniper. For this one you got to reach max mastery on a gun. Then we got Beyond the Sea, and for this one you have to reach max mastery on a Blox fruit, which is probably the hardest. Next up we got Unbreakable Will. For this one you got to reach max mastery with a sword, gun, or fighting style. Then we got the Master, and you get this for the exact same thing. Moving on we got the Explorer. For this one you got to reach level 800. Then we got the Adventurer for level 1000, the Mercenary for level 1200, the Viking for level 1600, the Pioneer for level 2000, and the Glorious for level 2400. Then we got Ship Destroyer. For this one you got to defeat a ship with a cannon. Then we got the Dog, and for this one you have to talk to the Doghouse. Pretty useless, but I guess you can say you have the title. Then we got the Mastermind, and for this one you have to defeat your opponent in a chess game, which is pretty simple to do if you have an alt account. Then we got the Mad King, and for this one you have to use castling in a chess match, and if you don't know how that works, search it up. Then we got Immortal Being, and if you don't know how that works, it's basically when you switch the position of your king and your rook. Then we got Immortal Being, and for this one you got to receive damage from a player and survive with 1 HP left, which is incredibly difficult to do. Next up we got the Undefeated one, and for this one you got to receive damage from a player and survive with less than 50 HP left. Next we got Jack of All Trades, and for this one you have to trade fragments for a stat refund. Then we got the Grandfather to trade fragments for a race reroll. Next up we got the Shadow, and for this one you got to stay in a server for more than 1 hour. Then we got the Vampire, and for this one you have to stay in the server for more than 4 hours. Next up we got Dracula, and for this one you have to stay in the server for more than 12 hours. Moving on we got the Professor, and for this one you just have to buy a special microchip. Then we got the Mad Scientist, and for this one you have to buy a regular microchip. Then we got Ultra Instinct, and for this one you have to reach max observation level. Then we got Iron Man, and for this one you have to reach max hockey level. After that we got Fallen Hero, and for this one you have to die to a raid boss, and I can tell you I've done this a couple of times. Then we got the Vanquished, and this one is pretty simple. You just have to die to any boss in the game. Then we got the Unlucky, and for this one you just have to die to a regular enemy. Moving on we got Empty Vessel, and for this one you have to run out of energy. Moving on we got Justice Seeker, and for this one you have to claim a bounty as a marine. Moving on we got some pretty cool titles. The Red Legion title, you get it by joining the Red Legion group. Then we got Rip Family, and you get this by joining the Rip Family and receiving a higher role. Same goes for the one before. Then we got El Crazy Editor, and for this one you got to defeat Zeolus. Moving on we got Endless Fantasy, you have to defeat the YouTuber Raijo N. Then we got Nakama Forever, and for this one you got to defeat me and you. After that we got El Combo God, and for this one you have to defeat Fear 999. And you get the Team JC title by defeating JCWK. You get the Kit Kat title by defeating Kit Gaming. You get the Magic Slayer title by defeating Magic Bus. You get the Herora family title by defeating Herora. Next we got Mafia Gang, which you get by defeating Bloxy Gaming. Next we got the Don Exori family, which you get by defeating the Exori YouTuber, which is one of the most OG YouTubers in the Blox Fruit community. Then we got Water Gang, and for this one you got to defeat Dyrock. Then we got Officially a Noob, and for this one obviously you have to defeat Official Newbie. Then we got A Squad, and for this one you got to defeat the Great Ace. Next up is the YouTuber title, and for this one you have to be a Blox Fruit YouTuber in good standing, which means you basically need a lot of subscribers. And you obviously have to be on good terms with the Blox Fruit devs. Next we got Big News, and for this one you have to redeem the code Big News. Pretty useless title, but I guess you can get it. But I guess it's pretty easy to have. Next we got the Venlord Toad title, and for this one you have to complete the April Fool's 2023 event, and it's obviously no longer obtainable. Next we got the Innovator title, and for this one you have to vote at the Roblox Innovation Awards. You have to vote at the Roblox Innovation Awards 2023, which you obviously can't get anymore. Next up we got a bunch of Awakening titles. For the Flame Awakening you get the Flame Fist title. You get Ice Queen and the Ice King title for Awakening the Ice Fruit, the Strongest One for the Quake Fruit, the First Light for the Light Fruit, Dark Lord for the Dark Fruit, the Spider for the Spider Awakening, Thunder God for Rumble, the Red Dog for Magma, Colossal God for Buddha, Desert Prince for Sand, and the Phoenix for Phoenix. And obviously Bread Chaser for the Dough Awakening. And once you awaken any fruit in the game, you automatically get an extra 4 titles. You get Over Hell, Over Heaven, Awaken 1, and Enlighten 1. Next, we got the Admiral title, and for this one, you gotta reach 10 million plus honor. Then we got Fleet Admiral. For this one, you gotta reach 20 million plus honor. Next, we got Warlord of the Sea, and for this one, you gotta reach 10 million plus bounty. Then we got Emperor of the Sea and Empress of the Sea, and for this one, you gotta reach a 20 million plus bounty. Moving on, we got Pirate Hunter and Bounty Hunter, and for this one, you have to have 5 million bounty or honor. Moving on, we got a bunch of titles for the races. The Unleashed is for Human V2, Unmatched Speed is for Rabbit V2, Sea Monster is for the Shark V2, Sacred Warrior is for Angel V2, the Ghoul is for Ghoul V2, Cyborg is for Cyborg V2, Full Power is for the Human V3, Godspeed is for the Rabbit V3, Warrior of the Sea is for Shark V3, Perfect Being is for Angel V3, for Ghoul V3 you get Hellhound, for Cyborg V3 you get War Machine, and finally we're on to the V4s. You get Berserker for Human V4, Thunderbolt for Rabbit V2, Leviathan for Shark V3, His Majesty for Angel V4, and for Ghoul V4 you get the Nightwalker title, and for Cyborg V4 you get Genesis. Moving on, we got some special unobtainable titles that you cannot get unless you're very good friends with the owners. The first one is the Blox Foods official title, and for this one you got to be a co-owner of Blox Foods. Next up, we got the owner title, which has the same requirements. Then we got El Rodolfo official, and for this one you have to be an admin. Then we got Festive Jester. For this one you have to be an experimic. Then we got Loco Verde, and for this one you just have to be Rip Indra. He basically just gave the title to himself. Then we got Sables Pasado, and for this one you have to be Airway. Then we got Los Original Bestia Supremi Loco Verde. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. For this one you got to be Drip Mama. Next up, we got Brazil God with a bunch of text I can't read, and for this one you got to be Burquad. Then we got El Papi, and for this one you have to be Uzi London. Next up, we got Lost Crazy Real official, and for this one you got to be Guashim. Next we got the James Charles title, and for this one you got to be Rip Inderson. Then we got this one, and I really can't pronounce it, and for this one you got to be Uzop. Next up, we got Dragon of Dojima, and for this one you have to be Tortoise, also known as Kiryu Kazama. Then we got the Rip Family Leader, and for this one you have to be Rip Indra. Then we got History's Strongest Loser, and for this one you have to be Safi Dev. Then we got the I Am Atomic title, and for this one you have to be Silent Ashura. And that's it. That's all the titles.